Hey there, Professor Snart checking in as we get right down to the end of our creative writing course here. I'm just in our due dates area. It's Tuesday when I'm recording this, so we are kind of in the middle of our final workshop, the poetry workshop. So Tuesday today is the due date to post your work to your group discussion board as a file. And then you have until Thursday to turn around with some meaningful commentary to everybody who posted on time within the groups. You'll also see that what I do, as in the past, is I'll go in early and grade based on who has posted on time. So you will see a grade, but it won't reflect the full amount of the points available because it's not about the feedback at this point. The due date for the feedback is Thursday, June 28th. And then we have a quick turnaround to Friday, June 29th, which is the final unit, the final reflection that you're doing on the course, or for the course. And so honestly, I think once you've posted your work as that first half of the workshop, you can really complete the second half and that final essay kind of almost as one, lump of work that you're doing. It's not like you'd want to wait or need to wait necessarily until the 28th to finish up that unit and then go on to the next one. If you're motivated to, you can certainly go in now and do your own reflection, final post here, and maybe respond to others who've gone in a little bit earlier as well. So the workshop part has hopefully become a little bit routine at this point, as far as you know how to get in there, how to post your work as a file, all of that kind of stuff, and then to provide meaningful feedback. So I'm just going to go into the final unit here, Unit 11. And it's fairly straightforward. It's just a last discussion board post that is really a reflection on, your experience in the course so far. Things like what you've learned about writing, and especially about the craft of writing, how to do it more effectively. Is there a particular tip or idea or example that we've run into that you think you could apply to your own writing, regardless of what genre it is, that could really make things more effective? So try to keep this fairly specific about a particular thing that you can do as a writer, not just that writing is important or writing creates meaning for people in the world. True, okay, but that's a little too general for what we're talking about. What did you learn about how other writers work? Could be classmates, could be stuff that we encountered in the textbook, could be anything from the course material that we covered, but really what does it mean to work like a writer? Think about what we learned in the T.S. Eliot, the Poetic Mind unit, in terms of how a writer maybe perceives the world or gathers fragments, gathers pieces together. That would be an example of how a writer works. How do people approach the idea of revision, right? That, again, is how a writer works, how they approach the idea of inspiration or drafting poems or nonfiction or whatever the case might be. Then the other question here is, has your writing changed during the course? It makes a lot more sense to think about this over the term if it's a 16-week affair rather than just our 5 weeks, since change in writing is something that's hard to see anyway. It takes sometimes years, and usually it's sort of fluke since we don't really think about this. But 5 years from now, you'll pick up some writing from now, or you pick up some writing now that you did 5 years ago. You find it in a closet or in some file on your computer, and that's really where you can see how you've changed as a writer, that sort of time frame. So thinking about it in terms of 5 weeks is a little bit artificial, I know. And so part of this is maybe just more is how you envision that you might change based on really the two things that have come before it. Are there specific techniques that you've learned that you think will influence your writing or change your writing for the better? And then are there particular habits that you might want to try to get into a little more consciously or intentionally, making time to write as a piece of your day, for example. Free writing, where you know that everything that you write isn't going to be great, but at least you're getting sort of something on paper. Even something like trying to do writing exercises sometimes, instead of always trying to sit down to write something that will become a publishable piece. Anything like that, you could say, could have a beneficial impact on your writing, even if you don't necessarily see it, instantly. So basically a month worth of this course, you're unlikely to see a massive change in your writing. If you do, that's great. And again, it might be really just you see that change on the horizon because you've learned a bunch of stuff that you had never either thought of before or put into practice before, or kind of made sense in terms of how that could work for you. So all of that could feed into how you've changed as a writer. And then any final thoughts or comments, again, it's pretty open-ended. So the final reflection, and this is again why I say I think people could do it without necessarily having to wait until our workshop is done, or the turnaround is fairly quick, but again, it's really so much of your own personal experience that it shouldn't take long to think about what you want to say. Really the only time that you might want to take at length is just sort of organizationally, how do you want to fit these pieces together? And then a quick reminder to respond to at least 2 other students. Maybe they had some similar ideas or whatever, just a final opportunity to kind of, have a bit of a dialogue with your classmates. So especially as we get right down to the end here, be sure you're in touch with me if you have any questions, concerns, check your grades, make sure everything looks about the way it should. And then just don't forget that final due date, because that's pretty much when our course ends and I need to have all the material in by then. And I should be able to do a pretty quick turnaround as far as grading. So within, a day or 2, you should have your final grade accessible here in Blackboard. All right, so stay in touch as we get towards the end here, and I'll talk to everybody soon.